our quarterback guide. So what my hope is, like, Monday, Tuesday of next week. Well, probably not Monday, because Monday we'll do a lot of reaction to the playoff games. But let's jot in for Tuesday or Wednesday of next week a full, like, official Hoffman show beginner's guide to the 2024 quarterback class. So what I was able to do today was watch one full game worth of throws for 3 guys. I watched Drake May versus Notre Dame. I watched Jaden Daniels versus Alabama. And I watched Caleb Williams versus Oregon. I started to watch Bo Nix versus Washington, and I got interrupted. So I got the top 3 guys who are the most important for the Commanders, if we're being honest, because it is very, very likely, 95%, let's say, that they draft one of those 3. Maybe it's not that high. I don't know. We'll get to it. Because I do still think, like, we are way too early in the process to rule out a trade down situation or anything else. But I watched one game's worth of those 3 guys. Every drop back they had. TV copy, not all 22, which is relevant. And it becomes especially relevant, I will say, for May and Williams. I watched a full game of Williams and a full game of May. And I think between those 2, I might have seen 5 throws on time. Those dudes never play on schedule. And it is, like, I've started to see in some scouting reports, and Logan has mentioned this as well, that for May, it looks like tall Sam Howell a lot. And I've also seen people start to call that out. It's like, oh, that's lazy analysis. You're just scouting the helmet. And I'm like, I don't know, man. With Drake May, there's a lot of tall Sam Howell. Now, there are benefits to being a tall Sam Howell. The playmaking stuff is great. The arm strength, the ability to make the big-time throws, like the ability to make these holy crap, how did he do that type of plays. Like, there's a lot of stuff that, like, when Sam was rolling this year, that you're like, hey, if he can get the other stuff, that's great. I can't teach the stuff he's doing right now. Excellent. Let's have ourselves a Sam Howell party. Obviously, that party ended. But you see a lot of that stuff with May. And then if you're taller, theoretically, once you get into an NFL system, Sam's inability to see the middle of the field, it looks like over some of his offensive linemen at times, is tremendously discounted. You could actually see some more on-time stuff over the middle of the field once he gets into an NFL system with NFL coaching, et cetera, et cetera. But the big arm, the ability to make, it feels like every throw is there. And it feels like he can make every throw until you watch Caleb Williams play. And then Williams has like the Patrick Mahomes bag of throws, and you're like, oh, neat. I see why everybody loves him. I also could see Caleb Williams, like, to be clear, I'm not trashing Caleb Williams, nor do I think he's going to flame out and bust. But I could see how it happens. And I think that's interesting for a guy that is universally seen as the number 1 pick, because that dude, like, think of, like, I don't know, Anthony, how much have you watched Williams? How much did you watch him this year?
I probably watched like six games, maybe.
Okay, you're up late. They don't speaking of never on time, they don't play on a time that your boy's awake. Yeah. Not in this household. West Coast, college football. Not a chance.
He's also from here, so I got to give him some love.
Yeah, no, I mean, all the love for the DMV kid. But, like, think of Patrick Mahomes' craziest highlights. The ones where he scrambles for 10 seconds, winds up spinning 3 times, like, crosses through the pocket twice, and then underhand throws the ball to someone 35 yards down the field on a dime. In that game against Oregon, which they lost, by the way, it felt like he did that 7 times. You're like, and the rest of the plays, he's running around like crazy. Like, he is all over the damn place. Now, I realize it's one game. I got to watch a lot more. But the high-end, like, Mahomesian nonsense that actually works, Caleb Williams has that bag. And then you see the occasional, like, in the game, there are 3 to 4 throws. I mean, I don't think I'm over-exaggerating here. There are 3 to 4 throws that are on time and where he just hits it. And, like, there's obviously some quick game stuff and, like, some predetermined screens and things that are on time. But I'm talking drop back ball hits or back foot hits, ball is out, and that dude can zip it. Like even in college, the camera angle at whatever stadium they were at, I think it was at Oregon. It was. The camera angle's super wide, so everything just feels tiny as compared to like what it feels like in the NFL and where the cameras are and the zoom level. And not to mention with the hashes, the field feels enormous because some of these throws are so long. But like Williams can rip it, and that's really impressive. So from a trait standpoint, I understand why he's the undisputed number one guy. His escapability, his playmaking ability, his arm strength, his ability to throw from different arm angles, like Caleb Williams is extremely impressive. But I also see, like, I got done watching Jaden Daniels versus Alabama, and I immediately understood why some scouts are going to have him number one. I don't know whether any teams will. Like, will there be a GM who has 3 scouts that all think Jaden Daniels is better and he's the number one guy, and that team, and certainly is that team Chicago, it does not feel like it at this time in the draft process. But if you want to watch a game where a quarterback has his feet underneath him, is making tight window throws against a high-quality defense, is able to showcase extremely high-level athleticism as a runner, making guys miss, great angles in the run game in terms of how he makes guys miss, and like kind of that Lamar type of thing. Not necessarily the jukiness of Lamar, but you know when Lamar runs and it just feels like everyone else is playing in quicksand? Jaden Daniels does that to Alabama. And then on the throwing side, again, feet underneath him, on time, often on target. It's not amazing, but it's really good. And he does have some misses, of course, but like generally speaking, he's getting the ball out within the scheme, on time, on target. And I just think like he looks so much more composed, where May and Williams in the games that I watched of them drop back and it's like they're waiting to go make a playoff schedule. Daniels is like, can I? Yep. Bang. Can I? Yep. Bang. Can I? Nope. Shift. Oh, there's a throw. Bang. Can I? Shift. No. Oh, crap. Here comes Dallas Turner. Run away from Dallas Turner and 4 other NFL guys for a 35-yard gain. I will say, on the con side for Daniels, I think I mentioned this the other day. I saw a tweet that I wholeheartedly agree with. Every time Jaden Daniels takes a hit, he looks like a Looney Tunes character. And that does scare me a little bit. It just feels like there's limbs that go everywhere. So I will say that's a little bit scary. You would like a little more, you'd like to feel a little bit better about his solidity. Like when even young Russell Wilson like was out there running around, like Russ was small. Sam has this too. Like those guys are small height-wise, but they get hit, and unless you get like rocked like Sam did that hit early in the year against Arizona,
Man.
where anybody is going to look like they got rocked. They don't take clean hits. Like Russell Wilson never gets hit clean. Jaden Daniels gets hit clean quite a bit. So that is something he's going to have to learn. He's going to have to learn how to slide. He's going to have to learn how to not take as many direct shots because the dudes in the NFL are bigger and faster, and that's going to hurt more. But if he can learn how to not get hit and look like a Looney Tunes character, I do really like Jaden Daniels. And through one random game each of watching, and I realized that I accidentally, it just happened to be what YouTube recommended. This wasn't even a conscious choice. I started with Jaden Daniels versus Alabama, and then I saw a Caleb Williams game or Drake May game pop up, and I clicked it. I didn't know the result. I didn't know what happened. It happened to be a loss to Notre Dame, where he does make some really good throws. Like some of the downfield stuff for him is like very, very special, and also plays into the Sam Howell comparison. But like that dude can throw a deep ball. And then another Williams tape popped up, every throw versus Oregon. I was like, sure, click, watch that. So I picked one of Daniel's best games and probably middle of the pack to not great for the other two, especially Williams versus Oregon. I know that was one of his worst games of the season. My ranking would be Williams, understanding that there's a lot more there and to watch, and also seeing the traits, Daniels, and then May. And my plan is over the weekend and into early next week to try to watch at least 3, if not 4 to 5 games of each of those guys, and let's say 3 each of Penix, Nix, and MJJ McCarthy, and then be able to give kind of a better summary. We'll do like a 20-minute segment where we do a Hoffman Show beginner's guide to the 2024 NFL draft quarterback class. So we'll do that next week. Very much looking forward to it. Anthony, in the meantime, what the hell do we've had so much stuff going on today. We've tossed around so many ideas. What else are we doing on the show today? What's coming next? What's on the plan? What'd you put in the rundown?
For next?
Yeah.
I thought we was mainly going to talk about Daniels and
we take some calls on the quarterback stuff.
Yeah, maybe that, and then hit take a man.
Okay, so that's the plan. Let's do that. We will take your calls next. 301-230-0980. Who's your favorite of those top 3? And do you think one of the next 3 can break into that bunch? I can also tell you the one that I think will break in potentially, and why I don't think May is a lock to be QB3. That's next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. 4 o'clock each and every day. Our show starts, and that is when the Chris Russell Show ends. And the Rooster's been nice enough on a Friday to grace us with his presence. What's up, dude? How are you?
Hello, Craig. How are you?
I'm good. That you said that in a way that was like you felt surprised.
Well, when Anthony walked in and asked me to come on, I was like, because I was listening, because being that you're not here today
Right.
in studio, I'm just kind of taking over your space, or not moving at basically a very glacial pace is how I would probably put it. So I was a little bit surprised. I was listening to you, talk about your breakdown of the quarterbacks and all that stuff. I've been so focused on the AFC and NFC championship and who's obviously going to be the head coach. That's had to take a little bit of a back burner for me, but man, am I intrigued. I mean, this is going to be, look, from a radio perspective, even though having the number 2 overall pick isn't always the best thing in terms of intrigue and possibilities, it is pretty intriguing, and I think will keep us going because there's a couple of different ways they can go.
Yeah, without question. And I think it obviously means that we had a not very fun season to cover.
Yes.
That is the nature of
Correct.
having the number 2 pick.
That is confirmed.
But I do think, I will say we're going to play next our interview with Jim Nagy, who runs the Senior Bowl. You obviously know Jim
Yes.
From your years going down there and just being around the NFL. And he was the one who threw out to us, hey, don't be surprised if they trade back. And does the new coach want to run it back with Sam Howell? And I think we have all dismissed that as a possibility. I think realistically, when you cover the team every day, you're obviously going to know a little bit better than the national people. But I do think it is worth pointing out that the idea that they could trade back should still be on the table. And to me, next week is super intriguing in that way. And I teased Chris, there could be one quarterback in the next group of 3 that could switch groups, that could bust that first group of 3. And I think it's Bo Nix. I think the Oregon quarterback is going to rise tremendously in this process. And I also am very curious to see what happens with Drake May, who's kind of been seen as this number 2 guy. But realistically, man, the tape isn't that good from this year from the people that have watched it. And so if you got one guy who interviews great and his tape is just getting better throughout his college career, one guy who had not a great year and is maybe riding a little bit on preseason hype, I wouldn't be surprised if Bo Nix enters the equation. And if there's 4 quarterbacks in that top group, that definitely affects how Washington has to think about it.
Yeah, so a couple of things for me, and I still have a lot of work to do, so let me be clear on that. I wasn't in love with Drake May when I was first kind of thinking about, the number 2 overall pick and assuming that Caleb goes number 1, Chicago, so on and so forth, which I guess we can't say for absolute certainty.
Seems
maybe
highly likely, but
it seems highly likely. Correct. But maybe it's a different team. Who knows? But it seems likely that he's going to go number 1. But Drake May, to me, when I walked away, I watched a lot of that Virginia game on that Saturday night. I don't remember, mid-October. I wasn't thrilled with him. The last 2 games at Clemson, at NC State, tough environments, road environments, but I wasn't wow, this guy. Yet you watch a bunch of the cut-ups, and I know you watch way, 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 way more than I'll ever be able to watch. You watch a bunch of the cut-ups, and you do see a kid with a juicy arm, size, just what you want, right? Can flick the wrist, can do whatever he wants. But I haven't been able, and maybe this is just me, I haven't been able to reconcile with what I've seen at other times. But is that me looking for negatives? Is that me looking for he wasn't great every game and I shouldn't hold that against him? Kind of like Ben Johnson, and I'm just going to, make a weird comparison here.
Sure.
Ben Johnson and the Detroit Lions offense isn't great every time you see them. But by and large, he's put up really good ranking statistics, numbers, productions, design, this, that, and the other thing. But, if you watch the wrong game, you're going to walk away going, Ben Johnson's not for me. Am I doing that for Drake May? Are you doing that for Drake May?
Well, I think part of the equation there is how often, right?
Yeah.
Because, if you go watch, I'm trying to think if there's a good football player for this. You could do it with Sam Howell. If you want to watch the Sam Howell highlight tape, Sam Howell is one of the greatest quarterbacks that's ever played. If you want to make a 2-minute cut up, some of the stuff that dude did this year was nuts. The throw to Terry against Denver, some of the running around, the toughness. You want to make a highlight tape of Sam Howell? Sure. But watch every game, watch every snap, and see how often it's that versus the other stuff.
Right.
If you want to take J.R. Smith or Jamal Crawford's best games as NBA players, those dudes scored 50 multiple times in their career. They also weren't the guys you wanted to be the best player on your team because your team wasn't going to be very good because they did that 3 times a season. They crossed 40 3 times a season and 50 once, as opposed to LeBron, who averages 30 a night. So I think it's a matter of trying to predict, and this is what makes the NFL draft so hard, Chris, is how often would you get in your system as an NFL head coach or you're an NFL OC and a GM? how often would you get good Drake May where he shows off that beautiful touch on the deep ball, where he can play pinball and then make a play, versus he just threw it into the ground again? Or like, why did you take that sack? Why can you never get the ball out on time? And by the way, Caleb Williams is kind of the same way. He's better than May on his good, but that dude is never on time.
So, I mean, there's so many questions that I have about all of these guys, but and I know it's your show, but I wanted to ask, because you're more down so far from what I can tell on these guys than I was expecting, because I thought from afar, and again, granted, I'm not either watching a lot of USC at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. Just being honest.
Not me.
But I mean, I've seen a lot of cut-ups. I've seen a lot of clips. I've seen some parts of games. I look at Caleb Williams as being more, off-platform play extension, razzle-dazzle, as opposed to just absolutely breaking your back from inside the pocket. Is that fair or no?
Oh, yeah. No, that's totally fair. And I think the question that people have is, like, how much of that was the offense? How much of that was his O-line? How much of that was a skill position around him? And can he do it? But I think, like, we obviously all were paying attention to that sack to pressure ratio number for Sam earlier this year. The numbers for pretty much all these quarterbacks in that number in college, which tends to translate pretty well to the NFL, are not good.
Yeah,
like,
they're a little low. They're a little lower on May and Caleb than they are on Jaden Daniels, right?
Yes, and Michael Penix's number is like elite. And so if you want to look at that, like, maybe Penix is the guy from the pocket that I think is most intriguing, but like it becomes like, okay, how much did you do it in college? He's 24. He had multiple serious injuries. Like, there's other stuff, but it's also like, this is why you can't just watch college football and say you can do it there, you can do it here. And it's really hard. Like, there are some skills that translate. Like, if you can cover man-to-man in college in the SEC, you're probably going to be all right in the NFL. Like, I always go, the NBA is my wheelhouse in a lot of the scouting stuff. I know more of some of the and honestly, it's an easier process. But, like, if you can rebound in college basketball, you'll rebound well in the NBA. That trait has traditionally translated very well. If you're Caleb Williams running around like a crazy person, it doesn't mean you can't learn to play from the pocket in the NFL, and it doesn't mean you can do that in the NFL either. So it's such a difficult projection, which is why quarterback is a bigger crapshoot than, say, here's a better, more direct football comparison. Logan will tell you, evaluating offensive tackles, really easy. If you can do it well in college, you're probably going to be pretty good in the NFL. And so that is why some of these positions are seen as more crapshooty. But, like, what are you going to do? Not take a quarterback because it's a crapshoot? No, you need one.
And just like to, before we run out of time, you mentioned Jim Nagy was talking about possibly trading down, and you just mentioned Penix best in the pocket. And I mean, when you watch Penix in Washington, you see a surgeon. You see a surgeon from the pocket. But again, there's all sorts of concerns there. One of the things that I've floated, and I don't know if you've talked about this, maybe you have, and I've missed it. As I try and, listen to you guys on the way home in traffic and beating my brains out and on the phone and whatever.
The only way that you exist in traffic.
Exactly.
Famously.
I've said this. What if you don't love these guys for various reasons, right? And I know it's hard to turn your nose at any of these three guys at the top. But what if you say, like Penix or Bo Nix a little bit more, and you say, all right, maybe we trade out of 2, maybe we go to 5, 6, whoever wants to jump up, get some other help for our football team. And then what if you package a couple of the second-round picks, or maybe another, a later first-round pick and a second-round pick to move back into the, 20, 21, 22 range of the first round and grab one of these guys. Again, a Nix, a Penix, somebody like that there. And now you're getting more help for your football team, and you're getting better value theoretically, and maybe a little bit more of a secure, surefire projection. Is that fair?
No, I think that's – I don't know about the surefire projection part, and I think that's the part that makes it hard. If you could tell me, like, if we want to use Madden ratings, right? If you tell me that, like, I might get a 95 in Jaden Daniels, but he might bust, or I could definitely get an 88 in Bo Nix, like, and trade down and get more stuff. Like, I might just be like, give me the sure thing.
Yeah,
but the problem is, that sounds better because the risk feels lower because it's a lower pick. Realistically, it's the same crapshoot. Like, Bo Nix might also be a bust, or Michael Penix might totally be a bust. which is why this is so hard. But I don't think that's crazy either. And I think a lot of fans have already decided if you don't take a quarterback at 2, like you're taking crazy pills. And I think to your point where we are 100% in alignment, which always I think terrifies the both of us, but where we are 100% in alignment is if you don't love one of these guys or you don't think there's that big of a difference between them, maximizing your value becomes important. Because like even – I haven't even gotten this far in the draft yet, but Logan's watched all these guys at this point, and we were talking about it on Take Command the other day. Like Joe Milton, the quarterback out of Tennessee, that dude throws the ball 85 yards in the air. Like he is going to be a top of the second round guy that is as physically gifted as anyone in any draft. Now, is he accurate? Is he on time? Does he process it well? Like all that stuff is why he's going to fall. But from a pure trait standpoint, like that dude's insane. And so if you fall in love with that and you think like we know how to coach that and you have a good interview with him and everything, do you just say we'll take Marvin Harrison at 2? Right. Like Marvin Harrison's going to the Hall of Fame. Right. Like, and I'm not talking about his dad. I'm talking about Junior. Yeah. If we think that dude's a Hall of Fame receiver and we're pretty confident we can get Joe Milton with the 4th pick of the 2nd round, we'll do that. Like, I don't think any of that is unreasonable. That's why it's fun to talk about this stuff in January, because everything is on the table, and we're going to learn a lot more starting next week with the Senior Bowl and then obviously Indianapolis and on down the rest of the scouting process.
Yeah, you got it. I'm with you. And by the way, it doesn't scare me to agree with you. I mean, I feel almost better that, because I'm considered the wackadoo of this radio station.
Which, by the way, very high bar.
I mean, yes, exactly. And I guess we'll all be wacky on stage next Friday night in some way, shape, or form. But I mean, it makes me feel better because you're considered more scholarly and smarter and all that stuff, right? Certainly compared to me.
I don't know. It's smarter.
I don't know, but I mean, I do feel better that you're not like Chris. You're a big bleeping dummy. By maybe wanting to trade down.
You are spot on here, my friend. And by the way, as Chris just said, we will be at Bethesda Theater next Friday. It's 106.7 The Fan versus the Team 980 Live. Obviously talking about what they'll do with the number 2 pick, what they'll do in free agency. And by that point, we'll have our Super Bowl 58 matchup. We'll predict all of that, all off air, on stage, and uncensored. Get tickets today at BethesdaTheater.com, and it's sponsored by Main Street Bank. Cheer local, bank local. Put their team in your office. Visit mstreetbank.com for more information. Rooster, appreciate some time, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate you.
Have a great weekend. When we get back, that conversation with Senior Bowl Executive Director Jim Nagy. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Big thanks to Chris Russell for popping in with us for a segment. That was a really enjoyable segment with Chris, and of course you can catch his show 1 to 4 daily before us here on the Team at 980. Catch Cordell Woodland covers the Ravens with us at the top of the hour. Insight on the AFC Championship game this weekend. Insight on Mike McDonald and Anthony Weaver. But right now, insight from a man who is running the biggest event not named the NFL Combine on the scouting calendar. Jim Nagy is the executive director of the Senior Bowl, and we caught up with him on Take Command about Adam Peters, who he used to work with back in New England, with about all the prospects and kind of the shape of this draft. So it's all in the interview. I don't need to set it up anymore. Here's our chat with Jim.
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
What's up? What's happening? Welcome in to the Take Command podcast. That's Logan Paulsen. I am Craig Hoffman. And in just mere moments, Logan, Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl is going to join us.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I mean, obviously that's the path of the draft starts in Mobile, and there's a reason that they say that. All those guys, most of those guys end up getting drafted. It's such a great opportunity to kind of flesh out your evaluation, and it's such a unique part also because they're playing football. They're not out in underwear doing testing. They're playing football, so you get to see kind of how guys take coaching, how guys respond to adversity, and how guys respond to a different level of physicality, especially if they're from different levels of football, which has been cool to see over the last couple of years. So always fun to talk to Jim. They do such a good job of finding these guys and then getting them to the Senior Bowl. So I'm really excited to talk to him.
Yeah, Jim, an accomplished scout in his own right as well, formerly with the Patriots and the Seahawks before he ultimately took the job with the Senior Bowl. We'll say for those watching on the video, we just actually talked to Jim, so this is a little bit out of order. We will react to what Jim had to say and also kind of go further into some of the draft stuff on the back end of this podcast. But if you're watching the video of the interview, Jim had an auto tracker on his camera and we were short on time and we didn't have time to fix it. So it's kind of a mind bleep. His camera's kind of moving around with his hands and stuff. And we will admit it's a little distracting. We get it. It'll be okay. The information is phenomenal.
Information's excellent.
Just I wouldn't focus your eyes on Jim, not because he's not a good-looking man. It's just it might mess with your head a little bit. So take it in, take the audio, walk around, whatever you're doing, however you watch it on YouTube. But yeah, we know. Him, and then Logan and I have plenty more on the 2024 NFL Draft on the back end. Our guest today is Jim Nagy, the director of the Senior Bowl, just a man who knows so much about everything going on this time of year in the NFL, prospects, front office folks, got a great read on the coaching search type of candidates as well. So Jim, appreciate your time here on Take Command.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. By the way, runs, I think, Logan and I's favorite event of this time of year as well.
Absolutely.
I miss going down to Mobile as a beat reporter now every single day. But Jim, you have such a great feel, not just for the prospects that we'll talk about in a second, but for the front office type of folks around the NFL. Commanders get Adam Peters, who is widely considered the best guy on the market. What's your experience been like with Adam, and what do you think about that hire for Washington?
Yeah, AP and I were together for like 7 years, I want to say, in New England. It was great. I'm happy for Adam. It was a really good hire. He's won everywhere he's been, and so he got out of that Patriots tree and kind of jumped into a new tree in Denver, and he won there, and then now he's won at San Francisco. So he's been a part of different winning organizations and not just the Patriot way. Like I went to Seattle after New England. It was a completely different way to do things, which is so beneficial as a leader, just to see different styles and different values, value systems in an organization. So no, happy for AP. He's obviously ready for it. He's been interviewing for these jobs for a while now, going through the interview process, and he could be selective. He was in a great situation. Why would you leave the 49er organization when you're competing for Super Bowls right now if you didn't believe it was the right fit and the right thing to do? So just really happy for Adam, happy for the Commanders organization. They got a good football guy.
Yeah, and obviously he's got a big decision coming up here in the draft, and obviously the coaching hire is going to be a big part of that. But probably quarterback at 2. You guys, obviously there's that 3 kind of the cluster 3 at the top there that everyone's really excited about, but you guys got some big names at the Senior Bowl. How do you view that pick, and like what direction would you go if you're Adam?
Yeah, it's certainly going to be dependent upon if whoever the new head coach is feels like Sam Howell could be a guy that you could work with. Because if you don't have to go quarterback right there, I mean, you can trade out. There's going to be people that want a quarterback. So you could Adam could, his first year, go out and get a lot of draft capital, which for any personnel guys, is fun to think about, right? Starting off a new program. So that's going to be key, obviously. But these 3 guys that are being talked about as the top 3, Caleb and Drake and Jaden. I watched more of Jaden Daniels than the other 2 guys. Jaden was the guy that we invited. I went over there to Baton Rouge and did a in-person invite with him and really thought we were going to get him here because for a long time it was just Drake and Caleb. And then after the Heisman thing, like the media jumped on Jaden and, they've kind of ridden him all the way to the top of the draft now. So it'll be interesting. There are 3 different players now. I mean, Drake's down here training in Mobile right now for his draft process. And went out and saw him throw the other day and went in and watched video with those guys of the workout. And so they're different, man. And I've seen a lot of Caleb, just doing tape of the USC guys over the years. So they're going to have three, if that's what they do, if they decide to stick there and go quarterback, I mean, you're talking about 3 very different players.
For sure. And then you got the guys that are coming down to Mobile, and the hot name right now coming into the week seems to be Bo Nix. And there's thought he could rise all the way, who knows, top 10, maybe even. Like if all of a sudden he has the kind of week that we think he can have in Mobile, those of us that like him, how does that change the contour of this draft?
Well, it just brings more quarterbacks into play early. You're probably going to see more movement in terms of the draft. You're going to maybe see some teams trading around, that sort of thing. But yeah, and to me, I've always liked Bo. I had him down here in the state of Alabama when he was a high school player. He's the last guy in our state that's won back-to-back state titles at the 7A level, which is our biggest level of high school football down here. Obviously started right away at Auburn. We had a scout at his first game. We were scouting Justin Herbert in Bo's first game as a starter there at Auburn. And the ironic thing was, it's funny, I've got on-field video from that scout of that day, and Bo ended up wearing Justin's number 10 at Oregon by the time he was done. But I'll say this, like in terms of what Bo brings to the table, in my opinion, was, the biggest thing he did the last 2 years and the most impressive thing he did at Oregon, he shed a lot of bad habits. He developed a lot of bad habits at Auburn, playing behind kind of a porous offensive line, and he became kind of a sandlot player, which is a cool thing to have. That's a really cool tool to have at the next level when you're trying to learn in the NFL, to be able to run around and make stuff happen off script. And he did that at Auburn, but then he goes to Eugene, and they really rein him in, and he, because mechanically he broke down, decision-making he broke down, and he really reined it in and shed some bad habits in really 1 year, and then and had a couple different coordinators in Eugene. So there's a lot to like, man. I'll say this, like, he is all about football. When out, because he's training down here as well with Drake May, and to be around those 2 guys, and his dad was actually out there watching his dad's a 7 here this year. So it is a football family, man. This dude is all about football and all about competing. And the teams are going to love that, right? Like the other 3 guys decided they didn't want to do this. I mean, this kid is going to take every opportunity to compete. So he is just a football guy all the way. So I know like the interview part of the process is going to be really good to him.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I mean, when you hear people talk about people that love ball, I mean, especially scouts and people who've been around it, obviously it kind of speaks to something that's like that, kind of that intangible quality that's always fun to talk about. But you also have some other really interesting quarterbacks down there. You got Joe Milton, and you got the guy from, I forget his name at the moment, Tulsa, is that right?
Yeah, Michael Pratt from Tulane. He's the sleeper.
Yeah, that are very kind of talented. They all have their own warts. It just, credit to you, man. You guys seem to get very, very talented people every single year. What do you think about those guys, and what do you think about the rest of the quarterback class? Spencer Rattler also in that group.
Yeah, I would say, just hitting them real quick, Michael Penix was a big get for us. At the start of the year, if you would have told me we could get Bo and Michael, and I thought we were going to get Jaden at one point. Those would have been the big 3 of the senior class. But Penix and Bo were kind of the faces of college football this year. They both ended up in New York. So, Michael is a great deep ball thrower, very accurate. I mean, that's hard to find. But he's also got a lot more arm strength. I mean, just because you can throw it accurately deep doesn't mean you have, a really strong arm, but he does. I mean, I can't wait for the teams to see this guy throw on a field. I saw him 3 summers ago at the Manning camp over in Thibodeau, and this dude can hum it now. So it's going to look really good on the practice field. Michael Pratt, to me, is the sleeper of the group. I think a lot of teams have starter grades on Michael Pratt. He's a group of 5 guys, so you don't hear a lot about him in the mainstream media, but this is a dude that lifted a program. I mean, he took Tulane to a Cotton Bowl win over Caleb Williams 2 years ago. They only lost 1 game in the regular season this year. He's a winner. He's accurate. He's extremely tough. He can process. Like he does a lot of things at a high level that NFL starters do. Spencer Rattler is a guy that, and I've said this on some other podcasts, like there's always guys in the draft that when you talk to guys in the league, I'm like, okay, the league's way higher on this guy than the media is right now. And usually it catches up. Like usually once we get through the process, by the time we get to April, the media talks to enough guys in the league where they catch on. The league's fired up to see Spencer Rattler here. He's another guy they think can be an NFL starter. And Joe Milton is a guy that I think he threw the ball 86 yards at the Manning camp this summer. I mean, he's got a rocket launcher for an arm. He'll have the strongest arm down here probably since like Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. He's in that category of like arm strength. So he'll be a lot of fun to watch as well. So it's a really cool group of players.
On the other side of the ball, I think one of the biggest needs for Washington is to find a premier edge. They obviously traded away Chase and Montez at the deadline. How does that class look overall, and who are some of the names to watch next week for you guys down in Mobile?
I would say it's a thin group, compared to past years. You're going to have to go get one up high if you're going to get one. You're not going to get much if you wait. It really thinned out for us for the Senior Bowl. It really did. I mean, there was maybe 5, 6, 7 guys, and then a huge cliff on our board. So Latu's coming to the Senior Bowl. He's got a chance to be our highest drafted player this year. Last year, Darnell Wright was our highest paid player at number 10 overall. Latu's a guy that, bottom line, he knows how to rush the passer, man. Like he knows how to set guys up. He's got a really good feel for it. He's a guy that's never out of a rush. Like you can cut him off and stymie him, and he just knows how to stay in it and counter and work a second or sometimes third move, and he plays his tail off. So it's not like he's just like this technician. Right. So he's a really accomplished pass rusher. And then some other guys down here, Marshawn Nealand is a name that I think people are going to learn coming out of Senior Bowl week. Adisa Isaac at Penn State. And Chris Braswell is a guy at Alabama that really got overshadowed the last 2 years by Will Anderson and Dallas Turner. But I've seen Chris's name in some of these mock first-round drafts, and he probably belongs up there. He's going to test well at the combine. He's one of the rare 5-star guys at Bama that didn't play right away and get on the field. And then when he did, he really had a breakout year this year as a senior. So those are a few names. I think Braswell and Latu will probably go the highest of the group, and who knows, maybe Nealon and Adisa will sneak up there too in the second round.
Yeah, obviously Washington's picking there in the second round, and there's the guys that I think are interesting from like a height, weight, speed standpoint in that group, like Darius Robinson and Miles Cole from Texas Tech. Like, what do you think about those guys? And like in terms of edge and just from having traits, could they elevate their draft stock with a good performance at the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, I think I didn't mention those guys because I think they're probably more like 5 techniques.
Interesting. Yeah, they are big guys. They're big body guys for sure. They're
big body guys. And Missouri played Darius Robinson out there on the edge this year. So he was like a jumbo edge for those guys. And I do think he runs well enough where he could do that. Like my last team I worked for was the Seahawks, and we had a Leo position in our 4-3 defense that Bruce Irvin played. I could see Darius doing that at 290 pounds. I mean, this guy. Yeah. He is a absolute specimen. If you guys aren't going to make it to Mobile, if you saw this dude, like the old getting off the bus deal, like he's the first one off the bus. And he made a nice jump on tape this year. He was eligible for last year's Senior Bowl, kind of fell right below the line. We had him in the 5th round. I think he's definitely going on day 2 this year. And then Miles Cole is going to be the longest guy in the draft. He's got like an 87-inch wingspan. Yeah. It's really freaky. So, and he's a guy that can kind of move up and down the front. So it'll be a big week for Miles. I think, people question instincts a little bit with Miles, but he's going to test really well. He's super long. So in a league that's just like valuing traits more and more year in and year out, Miles Cole's not going to fall to. If he does make it to day 3, he probably will make it to day 3. But I don't see him lasting very long on day 3.
Yeah, Logan will be down there. He will have to get our bus report. I will merely sit here in this chair and ask him for the bus report. Last thing, we might be able to squeak in one more tight on time here on the way out. I saw your tweet last week about kind of the depth of this draft. There is a ton at the top, and I think people have been obsessed with the top of this draft because of how strong the quarterback class is, et cetera. Obviously, in Washington, we're psyched because we're at the top. But it does apparently really thin out. How unique is this kind of draft class in that way, and how do you think it ultimately affects the draft with teams potentially trading out on day 3 and trying to maybe get some more picks in the future?
Yeah, this is like an hour-long answer, so we're going to have to pick this up on another episode.
Deal,
no,
done.
It was a really strange dynamic, guys. Really, I'll try to pull it together as quickly as I can. Like, we can bring underclassmen this year, so that was a different dynamic. So in terms of like the invite process, we couldn't just invite 120 or 130 seniors right out of the chute. We had to like reserve certain roster spots at each position, and then kind of play the waiting game to see who was going to come out, and then if we could get them in the game or not. So what happened was when guys weren't getting invites in December, a lot of these guys kind of, and this is from agents, this isn't me like pontificating, this is from the agent community telling me that what happened and what coaches have told me what happened. Some players like push the panic button that like, oh my, they didn't get a Senior Bowl invite. Like that must mean the league doesn't value me. So they jumped in the portal, or they agreed to an NIL deal and they're going back to school. So then when we got to like January and we still had roster spots available because some of the juniors stayed in or we didn't get those juniors, and we wanted to circle back to the next, work down the board, I would start making calls and they're like, Jim, he transferred here. He's committed NIL here. So like the whole depth of day 3 just got totally wiped off our board. So I'm not complaining. We got the players we wanted for the Senior Bowl, but from a draft perspective, to me, rounds 5 through 7 completely fell apart. They're all going to be back in college football next year. So if I'm a team that's holding a lot of day 3 capital, I'm looking maybe to maneuver around on day 1 and day 2 and trade picks and move up and go get the guys we want up high.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And obviously Washington, fortunately, has 5 picks in the top 100, so they can hopefully get in with what they need before that drop-off. But going to be interesting to watch for sure. Jim, Logan, I'll see you next week. I've got to get down there next year. I miss coming down there when I used to be on the beat up here. Always a great event. You guys have such a tremendous group this year. We look forward to watching it on TV, those of us that won't be in Mobile. And we will definitely have you back to unpack that answer and much more sometime after you get done with your day job down there with the Senior Bowl next week.
Well, awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys. Logan, I'll see you next week.
Yep, thanks.
Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And just after 5 o'clock, it is time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Our pleasure to welcome in Cordell Woodland, covers the Ravens for 105.7 The Game, hosts our Odyssey sister podcast up there, covering the Ravens as well. Cordell, welcome back to the show, bro. How are you?
Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Always great to have you on the show, and I know you're a big Commanders fan, so you've got a double eye on this coaching search. So let's give the people what they want. Let's start there. Let's start with the coaching search and the two candidates that you have in-house in Baltimore, and then we'll get to the AFC Championship game. But Mike Macdonald, Anthony Weaver, how would you describe both men? Because I think they have an interesting split of responsibilities in terms of what they do with the Ravens. Weaver is the D-line coach, but also assistant head coach. So he's got that really elevated title, but Macdonald's the coordinator. So how have you kind of tracked both men and their time in Baltimore?
Yeah, I mean, first with Anthony Weaver, I think he's a guy that has a lot of respect, not only in the organization, but around the league. He knows how things work. Like you said, he's the assistant head coach of the team, but, he's done a tremendous job with that defensive line. He's been a part of defenses around the league. So, he's a guy that I'm not surprised is very interested in becoming a head coach. I think that's something that he's wanted to do for a while. And being a part of this Ravens organization and the things that they're doing, especially this year, it's kind of easy for his name to start getting out there. And really, it's the same for Mike Macdonald. He's a little bit of a different case because he's younger. He doesn't have as much of the longevity in the league that Anthony Weaver does. But man, I mean, Mike Macdonald's definitely one of the more brightest young coaches in the NFL right now. I think he's the best defensive coordinator in football right now with, the scheme that he has and how he's been able to pretty much get the most out of every player that has stepped on the field on the defensive side of the ball. I think he'd be a tremendous head coach. I think his preparation is kind of second to none. That's really what stands out to me about Mike Macdonald. When he's prepared, and he usually is, he's able to go out there and put together a pretty good performance. So, yeah, I'm curious to see if, how it all shakes out, just like everybody else is. But I don't think any team could really go wrong with either of these guys.
Yeah, when it comes to Macdonald, I've obviously done a lot of research on Ben Johnson, a lot of these other guys, and Macdonald too. He's been a little bit more of a mystery, which is why I was looking forward to have you on. But I started asking around with Johnson earlier in the year, clearly schematically we can see the results, but does he have it? Is he the dynamic leader? And it's yeah, no, he's the real deal. For Macdonald, what's the story on him? We see the results on the field, we see the resume in that way. How do you think the interview goes? What is he like as a guy?
I would imagine he's pretty good as an interviewer. He's like I said, he's very well prepared, which is a big step in any interview that you go into. But, he has a way of he's not a guy that's going to talk in circles and beat around the bush. He's going to get straight to it. And I think, when you look at the defense on the field, I think their ability to be the best defense in football this year is kind of a byproduct of how easy it is for people to kind of understand what Mike Macdonald is saying. It's right. It's like the slogan of, you could drop all these gems to people, but it means nothing if they're not picking it up. So the players on defense always talk about their rules. They have rules within the scheme that they have to follow. If an offensive player does this, the rules tell them, since you're in this spot, you're to do that. And we brought that up to him when we spoke to him on Thursday, and he was like, it brought a smile to his face. He was like, that's good. That means that, they know where they're supposed to be. They're picking up on what I'm saying. And it's not like he's just talking to a wall. So I think that's what you're looking for out of a head coach, especially if we're talking about the Commanders. That's a team that needs somebody that they can not only follow behind as their leader, but somebody that when they speak, it resonates to them. They understand what he wants. And when you understand what somebody wants, you're able to then go out there and give them what they're looking for. So I think Mike Macdonald will be a great head coach. I definitely believe he's a leader of men. It's a nice mixture of veterans and young guys on this defense, and you won't find anybody that'll say a bad word about him.
Cordell Woodland is with us, covers the Ravens for 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. So my one big question I would have for Macdonald in the interview is, what's your staff look like? Because he's been in the Ravens organization his entire career. He doesn't have the diversity that some of the other candidates have. Something that was so appealing about a guy like Raheem Morris, obviously now going to Atlanta, is like, that dude's staff's going to be sick because he knows everyone. Macdonald's been in this one Harbaugh, bubble, whether it's John or Jim, the 1 year he spent in Michigan. How do you think that he would piece together a staff as a head coach, and especially for a team, if it's Washington, that's going to have a young quarterback, probably with that number 2 pick, and that OC hire becomes incredibly important?
Yeah, that's a good question, to be honest with you. And, it's tough to answer considering, he's in coach years, he's like a baby in the NFL. Right. He doesn't have a lot of longevity, so he hasn't had the opportunities to kind of build that coaching pipeline. And so, it would, if it was a situation where, for instance, if Joey Ortiz had gotten the GM job with the Commanders or something like that, and then Mike Macdonald comes in, okay, now you could start to have a little bit of a better idea of what the coordinators would look like, because Ortiz coming, you have a little bit more of that Ravens lineage. But look, I don't expect, if Macdonald gets a job, I don't expect Todd Monken to follow him. Denard Wilson, the DB coach, I'm sure a lot of teams are probably going to be interested in him as a defensive coordinator. So as much as I would love to say that Mike Macdonald would like to bring him with him, realistically, if Mike Macdonald leaves, I think Denard Wilson will probably be the next in line for the Ravens defensive coordinator job. So it becomes slim pickings after a while. So I would imagine maybe he'll try to touch base with some of his guys from back at Michigan, when he was out there a couple of years ago. Maybe he'll talk to John Harbaugh and some of those guys and see what coaches they have interest in, because he's such a young coach in itself. But then when you mirror that with, him not being an NFL coordinator, but for so long, it's kind of tough to imagine who he'd want to bring with him.
Yeah, all of a sudden I'm back a year ago when we were having arguments on this radio show with fans and listeners about Greg Roman. Like, are we in that boat again? Does all of a sudden does EB staying become more appealing to Macdonald? Like, there's so many questions I have there. Yeah. It's a question he's going to get asked. I don't expect anyone to really know the answer except for him. I just know that if he doesn't have a good answer, he's got no shot, and that he will know going into next year when he will certainly be a hot candidate again. All right, Cordell Woodland is with us talking Ravens adjacent things in terms of the coaches that are candidates here in Washington. But let's get to the game itself. And it sounds like the Ravens had a great week because they got a ton of their stars back. All of a sudden, are we looking at a full-strength Ravens team pretty much ready to host the Chiefs from an injury standpoint? Mark Andrews and others returning for Baltimore?
It looks like it. I mean, they had all 53 guys on the field today, which is about as much as you could ask for going into the biggest game of the year. Yeah. I mean, especially when you think about where the Ravens have been over the last couple of years and the injuries that they've dealt with over the past 2 seasons that quite honestly completely derailed their season. When Lamar Jackson went down each of the last 2 years, the Ravens were at the top of the AFC North at the time. So to see them healthy right now, you're getting to see how good this team truly can be. So yeah, this week was really good for them. Like you mentioned, they activated Mark Andrews off of IR. We spoke to him today. He's all the way ready to go for Sunday. And another good one is Marlon Humphrey, who's been, he got injured, I want to say, in that Dolphins game towards the back end of the season. And over the last couple of weeks, he hasn't done much practice-wise, but he did return to practice this week. Today, he logged his first full participation in practice in almost a month. So that's a huge step for him. So it looks like they'll have all hands on deck come Sunday. And obviously, they're going up against Mahomes and those guys who are very well used to playing this time of year. So they'll need everybody to win that game.
Cordell, how surprised are you that we're here with Baltimore hosting this game? And I'm not going to put you like, yeah, I saw a month ago, duh, they've been awesome all year. But like, I guess almost when in this season did you go like, wow, this team is for real? Or did you have this feeling that they could be this good back in the summer?
I mean, to be honest with you, you always have the idea that Baltimore can be in it as long as number 8 is on the field. I mean, Lamar is just such a difference maker for them. As long as he's available, obviously within reason compared to who else is left out, whoever else may be missing, but he gives them a chance every time he's out there. So I knew they'd be a good team. But in terms of when I've started to feel like they'd be here, I'd say, I mean, what they did to the Lions and the Seahawks was definitely, impressive. But you still had a little bit of a reservation because it's like, all right, it's Detroit. How much are we really buying Detroit at that time? As good as they looked, it was still reasons to kind of fight that optimism. And look, Seattle didn't even end up making the postseason when it was all said and done. So for me, I'd probably have to say Christmas night when they went out to San Francisco and completely beat the brakes off the Niners, and then follow that up by dominating the Dolphins right after that. I mean, it really started to feel like, okay, nobody can really hang with this team when they're on their A game. And I think you got to see it a little bit last week as well. They go into halftime tied at 10 with Houston, but then that second half, they outscored the Texans 24-0 and completely leave them behind.
What is Todd Monken brought that has gotten Lamar back? I mean, look, he won an MVP under Roman, but he's this MVP Lamar is better than that one. What has Monken been able to unlock for him and that offense?
It's funny you say that because I've kind of been struggling with, the whole comparison of this year's Lamar versus 2019 Lamar. And I mean, I agree. I think in some aspects he is better. I've come around to saying I think he's more mature right now. His game has matured. His game has become is more fine-tuned right now. And so I think in 2019, Lamar had more of that wow factor. He gave us more wow plays, mainly with his legs that year. And this year, he's just found a different way to do it. And I think Todd Monken has empowered Lamar first and foremost. Lamar wants to be a great quarterback, and I think he kind of capped out with Greg Roman. I think, Greg Roman was a guy that was cut and dry. He calls a play. He wants you to go out there and run it. Whereas now with Todd Monken, Lamar has all the control in this offense. He has the ability to audible at the line, adjust protections, a hot route, whatever he wants to do, he can do it in this offense. So I think Todd Monken has not only empowered Lamar, but he's also challenged him. And that's what great players like. Great players want to be coached hard. They want to feel challenged. And I think Todd Monken has walked in like, hey, Lamar, you say you want to be this great quarterback. You say you want to win a Super Bowl. You say you want to be thought of as one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Well, I'm going to give you all the power in this offense to now go out there and do that. And I think you're seeing a guy in Lamar who appreciates his coach empowering him, and appreciates the confidence that his coach has in him. And health works wonders when you're out there. But I think for Lamar, this offense allowed him to go to the next level as a professional quarterback.
Cordell Woodland covers the Ravens for 105.7. The Fan is with us. We heard all the rumblings, and this is the kind of stuff that happens around contract time, especially the negatives come out because teams are trying to posture and blah, 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 blah. But there was like real consternation with how Lamar finished last season, not playing, reports of teammates not exactly psyched about it. It seems like everyone is so behind him and that he is a real leader. I think John Harbaugh pushed back a little bit on just how fiery the speech was at halftime last week, but he clearly stepped up and said something that mattered to a lot of people. So what has that growth been like for Lamar this year as a leader now that he's got the contract and is the undisputed face of the organization, not just currently, but moving forward?
Yeah, I think for him, it was just a huge weight off his shoulders. I mean, that contract, as crazy as this offseason was, it's been a build-up to this past offseason. The last couple of years, it's been that same conversation, but obviously it really hit its peak this past offseason when the team put the franchise tag on him and Lamar is asking for a trade. And, like you said, it's just so many different rumors swirling out there that you almost don't know what to believe. And I got to admit, to a point, I felt like the relationship was fractured to where I didn't know if we'd see Lamar back in Baltimore with the Deshaun Watson contract kind of having an impact on contract discussions, and the rumors of what Lamar's looking for, and like you said, how the back end of the season ended with him getting hurt and people making a big to do of him not traveling with the team and stuff. You didn't know what to expect, but I think for him, like I said, I think the contract getting done was a huge weight off his shoulders, and it allowed him to go back to just focusing on football. And look, the Ravens have finally put together a halfway decent crew around him of receivers. I mean, Lamar's been playing with a lot of guys that either aren't on teams anymore, or if they are, they're buried on the depth chart. So it was good to see them go and draft a Zay Flowers, go and get a Odell Beckham. Nelson Aguilar has been great for this offense this year. Isaiah Likely, who they drafted last year in the draft, has been excellent for them while Mark Andrews has been out. So his supporting cast has been great. And I think Lamar's trust in those guys has gone up as well, because now he doesn't feel like he has to be Superman on every single play.
No doubt. Just another minute or two with Cordell Woodland here, previewing the AFC Championship game from the Baltimore side of things. What scares you? Well, Mahomes, he's terrifying. But on a deeper level, Baltimore has been so good. They've been so dominant. But if you're trying to pick apart where the Chiefs can attack offensively or defensively, what are the areas where, like, if Kansas City pulls the upset, it will be because X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, I think it starts with the run game. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco is a stud for them. I mean, he runs, he's probably
What's your favorite Isaiah Pacheco meme description of how he runs?
Well, it's funny. I heard him on his press conference. I guess this was from one day this week, and he actually mentioned a funny one where he said he saw one that said he runs like he eats people, or he bites people.
Yes.
Like, what? Who thinks of that, first of all? And
Hilarious.
that never came to mind.
To which he responded, "I'm not a vampire. That's messed up."
Right. Like, as he said it, I'm like, I could see why people would say that, but the dude runs like he hates the ground. I mean, You talk about high knees. This dude, you usually see people when they go through the high knee drill kind of, just ease their way through it. They're barely picking their legs up. This dude, when he's running, oh my God, he's about to hit himself in the chin when he's running out there. So as great as this Ravens defense is, and they're the best defense in football, Triple Crown winner this year, they have an issue with stopping the run at times. And it's not just, when teams are going to casually run the ball. It's when teams are willing to commit to the run. I'm talking 25, 30 plus carries a game. And when you run like Isaiah Pacheco, it does wear defenses down. Now, I will say this Ravens defense is about as physical of a defense as you're going to find in the NFL. Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen and Kyle Hamilton, I mean, they live to tackle guys like Isaiah Pacheco. So I'm curious to see how that matchup goes, because I think if Isaiah Pacheco and Roquan Smith meet up head on head, the stadium might shake, honestly, with those two dudes. So if there is a pathway for the Chiefs, I think their ability to run the football could end up being a huge success for them. No Joe Tooney in this game is obviously going to be a huge blow for them, because the Ravens' interior defensive line, led by Justin Madubuike, is tremendous. And I think the interior of that offensive line was the strength for the Chiefs, but without Joe Tooney, that's a huge blow.
If people want more from you on this game, what's the best place to find it?
Yeah, you can follow me on social media at Cordell Woodland. You can catch my show, Shaking It Up Sports, on 105.7 The Fan on weeknights. You can check me out either on the radio, or if you download the Odyssey app, you can hear me on there. I also do an Odyssey podcast with my co-host Rita Hubbard, the Win and Drive podcast. You can download that anywhere you get podcasts from.
Beautiful. Excellent stuff, Cordell. Always great to have you on the show. Obviously, the Ravens win. We'll have to have you back. I don't know. If they win, are you headed out to Vegas?
I will be. So I'm silently rooting. Rooting for them.
You can loudly root for yourself. I think that is perfectly allowable. All right. Well,
right.
If that happens, we're taking the show out there. So we'll see you out in Vegas.
Nice. I'll definitely see you.
All right, that is Cordell Woodland with us, everybody, here on the Hoffman Show. When we get back, we will continue to preview this game, and we will also get into the NFC Championship game. Anthony and I will pick it. Hopefully, we'll pick it correctly. Will we be seeing Cordell in Las Vegas? That is really the question we are asking. The answer, next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 as well. I just had a horrible realization as I was getting ready to set us up for this here segment. Wow, this is sure something. Anthony, this is going to make people very upset. It's a sad truth. But are you ready for this? You don't look ready. Your headphones are just okay. I tried to buy you as much time as I could there. Come on, get your headphones on. All right. Are you ready?
Are you ready?
I've been ready. I've been waiting for you to get ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
Anthony, there are only 3 NFL football games left in this season.
Oh, you're just now realizing that?
Yeah. Like, you don't really do the math.
I did.
There was 4 last weekend. And now there's 3 left in total. We got 2 this weekend and a Super Bowl. If you stare at your fingers more, the math isn't going to change.
Yeah, that's good math. Very quick math, too.
Yeah, there's 4 games last weekend, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. And now there's 3 left in the entire season. We had more games last weekend than we got left until September of next year.
Good gracious. And we already know these next 8 months are just going to be so long.
I mean, there'll be plenty of stuff to talk about.
I mean, there will be stuff to talk about, but, you know, football rules everything.
I thought money ruled everything.
Well, money does.
Cash ruled everything around me.
Ooh, okay.
That's a bar.
Okay, so that's a Wu-Tang bar right there.
Yeah, it is. If you know, you know.
Yes.
No, in the sports world, the NFL does. But, like, they'll be great. One, I mean, it still will, honestly. Like, let's be very real. You said there's 8 months until the season starts. We're going to spend 4 of them talking about dudes that aren't going to play a snap until September and never have before at the pro level. We're going to be talking about the draft quite a bit. Open the show with it. If you missed it, good conversation. First half hour today. Very, very good, including a visit from the Rooster. Very good visit from the Rooster that you can check out now on the Hoffman Show podcast feed. But there are just 3 games remaining, Anthony, which means there are just 3 chances for you to pick the correct team instead of me. That's not enough games for you to make up the gap, but that's okay. How did we do last week? And then let's preview one of these two games, and then we'll preview the other one next.
I went 4-0. You went 3-1.
Oh, that's right, because I let you keep the Chiefs, even though you were just fading me, and I immediately had regret when I said Bills.
I think you might have jinxed the Bills, to be honest. But, that's neither here nor there.
I think jinxes of the Buffalo Bills have literally existed since before I was alive.
Okay, that's fair. That too.
Or maybe it is me. What year did the Bills lose their first Super Bowl? Hold on. Buffalo Bills Super Bowls.
No way, Craig.
I'm gonna be sad.
You were born in 90?
I was born in 90. They lost in 91, 92, 93, and 94.
Yep.
So it's not like if it had been the 1990 Super Bowl, like the 89 season, I would feel responsible. Because, well, actually, no. I would have been born, I was born weeks after the 1990 Super Bowl. So the 90 season ending in 91. Damn. Sorry, Buffalo.
You're at fault, Craig. Yep.
Oh, no, it was 19. It's the 90. I hate the way they do this. Yeah, 4 consecutive Super Bowls between 1990 and 93. So it was me.
Yes. Glad we got to the bottom of that. But we now know.
Sorry, Buffalo. Don't tell Mike Shope.
No.
Don't tell our friends up in Buffalo that have been having me on their shows and welcoming me into their radio universes for years. Let's instead talk about you want to go NFC and then circle back to the AFC, or you want to start with the AFC game?
So when I found out that the Ravens and Chiefs were playing at 3:00, I was very upset, Craig, because that's the game everybody wants to see. Apparently last week the Ravens and who did they play?
Texans.
The Texans game was like the most watched ESPN game like ever.
Yeah,
and I'm
but
like, everybody's going to watch the Chiefs-Ravens next week. Why are they at 3 p.m.? They should
because
be the late
the Lions are like America's sweethearts. I think everybody wants to watch the Lions and 49ers.
So you think that game is bigger than the Ravens-Chiefs?
I think we have true 1A, 1B. I genuinely think that we are in a tremendous spot. The other reason that you do it that way is local time. You get a 3 p.m. kickoff for both. Because Baltimore, 3 o'clock, it'd be kind of weird. I guess it could work, but like you do. I mean, no, you can't. You don't have an option. You can't kick off the NFC Championship game at noon local.
Yeah, at 12. That would be insane.
So you can't. Well, I wonder what would happen if they had both games on. Like, what would happen if it was? I mean, the worst situation would be if the Chargers and the Rams were both supposed to host, because they share a stadium.
Yeah, they better hope that never happens.
The Jets and Giants, same thing. But like, what happens if it's the Raiders and the Niners, right? Where it's 2 West Coast teams. You just kick one off at noon, or you push it back to 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock.
Or somebody plays on Saturday and somebody plays that Sunday.
I guess so. You probably have to do that if it was the LA situation.
Yeah.
That's great. I never thought about that. I'm sure someone.
But I'm not
going to
lie, Craig. I think the Chiefs Ravens game is more exciting just because if you want to be the man, you got to go out there and beat the man. Josh Allen hasn't been able to do it, but guess what? It's Lamar's chance, baby. Count me in.
Oh no, I'm thrilled for both of these, and I think that's great. That's a great, like we always used to ask during the season on Friday for the Commanders, like what are the stakes? And I think that's the stakes for Baltimore. You want to be the man. You've looked like the team all season long. Now you got a chance to beat the reigning champs. You got a chance to go out there and be like, we're about that business. We can beat Pat Mahomes in the playoffs. Something that only Joe Burrow and Tom Brady have done. Do I have that right?
Yep. And Tom Brady should have done it twice. But, who was offside? D Ford and what?
No, that's
Clark.
part of the reason why. No, it was D Ford, and it was why he's done it twice.
Yeah.
Because he did it once in the Super Bowl with Tampa, and he did it once in New England.
Yeah, they did win.
And if D Ford hadn't been lined up offsides, that game is over, and Mahomes might have 3 rings right now instead of 2.
Mm-hmm.
And Burrow would be the only guy that would have beat him in the AFC.
Yeah.
I mean, well, is that really true? Has Cincinnati beat him twice?
Cincinnati in the playoffs?
Because this is his 6th straight AFC Championship game.
Yeah, but he's only lost to the Patriots and he's lost to the
Bengals once. Okay, yeah, no, that's right. And then 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So
3 Super Bowls.
3?
He has a chance to go to the 4th.
Have they not lost twice? No, they've only lost once. You're right. And that math actually works because this is the 6th. I was told there would be no math. So I do agree with Cordell Woodland, who joined us earlier in the hour, that the biggest way the Chiefs keep this close and ultimately win is with the run game. They've got to establish it. This game has to become a shorter game. Short, like high number of possessions, Ravens favored. Because for as explosive as the Chiefs can be, that's not really who they are anymore. Like, they're not the Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, we got a track team Chiefs. They're a power football team. And they have guys like Rashee Rice who can score from anywhere. Obviously, if Kadarius Toney's out there or Hardman, like, these guys can do it, but that's not the featured part of their offense anymore. It's Kelsey over the middle. It's Bell. It's Noah Gray, the other tight end. Yep. It's those guys over the middle. It's Rice, heavy dose on the outside, and then it's these running backs. And I am, Joe Thuney, their guard, all everything guard, missing is a big deal for them. But I think if you're Kansas City, you have to come out and try to play some smash mouth. Actually, I might come out and try to dot short, quick passing game, loosen them up a little bit, and then hit them with the ground game. But you have to be ready to stay committed to your game plan. And I think the Chiefs have been able to do that in part because they trust their defense. That Chiefs defense can't play like it did against Buffalo last week. They've got to be much, much stingier. And it's really hard because Lamar's insane and this offense is tremendous. But that's the plan for the Chiefs is you play an extended drive, like long drive. Don't be afraid to play a little bit of field position type of game. And then you better keep everything in front of you, including Lamar as a scrambler and ton of zone defense, and that's how you try to scheme it up.
I think also what KC did well last week against the Bills, they actually caught the football. MVS had a couple of great catches.
He did.
And I was like, whoa, he actually caught that. So it's more so those guys got to, show up and play. Like, I think Mahomes is going to do Mahomes. Like, he's going to put these guys in position to, go out there and make the plays that he needs them to make in these high-stakes situations. And then you got to come through for him. But I definitely do think the run game will be huge. Also, Mahomes scrambling will be huge. I think
always is in the playoffs. That's a great point.
The Ravens have they've led the league in sacks this year. So I think Mahomes is going to have a little bit of a tall task, but if he can get out of the pocket and create on his with his legs, I think that also will be beneficial for those guys.
Chiefs are banged up. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed has a calf injury. He was limited on Wednesday. He's fine, but questionable. Pacheco, little banged up, toe and ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Tony with the hip injury that's kept him out the last couple of weeks has a hip. Has the hip. He's questionable. Willie Gay and Mike Edwards are questionable. Edwards coming out of concussion protocol, so he's been very limited in practice, even if he does play. So it's Sky Moore's been on injured reserve. So it's against a Ravens team that's super duper healthy and getting healthier. Like Mark Andrews back. So it's going to be a tall task. Ultimately, Anthony, can the Chiefs pull the upset? Can Patty Mahomes go to a 4th Super Bowl in 6 years?
I'm rocking with my MVP favorite. I'm going with Lamar and the Ravens. And again, I think Cordell said it perfectly. Like, this is one of the most complete teams we'll see, I think, in a while. Like, offensively, they're great. Last week against the Texans, they had multiple drives where they had double-digit play drives. And that's tough to do in the NFL, like repeat, nickel and dime over and over again. And they managed to do that. And then defensively, we already know what they bring. They led the league in sacks. They led the league in points and takeaways as well. So I think it's going to be really tough to go out there and beat the Ravens in the bank. I'm going with the Ravens.
I agree. I say I agree in part because I genuinely don't want to have to like pick against the Chiefs out loud. I just
It's
wanna,
so hard to bet against the guy.
or even don't tell Patrick Mahomes. Like betting against Mahomes feels impossibly stupid.
Man.
He is that good. He is that good. But so were they. They being the Ravens. Now the Bills were playing that well, and we thought they might have been good enough, but that little bit not there. I also do wonder though, can the Chiefs make the Ravens beat them through the air? They are much more capable of doing that than in years past. Lamar has been very, very good as a thrower this year. And then, we'll see about where it goes from there. But I would rather Lamar beat me with his arm and just be like, shake your hand, kid. Nice job. By the way, congrats on another MVP. Versus he's running the ball. They're running the ball. Lots of play action, balance, like game flow becomes very important, I guess is the shortest way of saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live on the free Odyssey app. Anthony, I got to adjust the settings on my laptop here in the commercial break. Do you have the new iOS on your MacBook, the new operating system?
That I don't know.
So the new operating system does a thing that if you give a thumbs up, it like puts a thumbs up on your screen.
Oh, I've seen that on my phone.
Yeah, it does it on your phone too. See, there it is. It just did it on my screen. Like,
yeah, I see it now.
What is that? I'm in the middle of a radio show. It won't do it for you. You can't make it show up over here. But like for me, I do the thumbs up. And like at sometimes, I don't know. Now I can't get it to do it. I gotta adjust the settings. It's very annoying. Yeah. So if you're on YouTube, enjoy a random thumbs up in the middle of your day. And if you're on the radio, enjoy what's trending. is the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. You can stream us live on YouTube at the Team 980 as well as many of you are right now. Let's get to the NFC Championship game. We're both on Baltimore for the AFC game. Anthony, Lions and 49ers. The 49ers are a behemoth, especially when Deebo Samuel plays. It looks like he is good to go. He is going to play. That was my Super Bowl pick before the season. I would absolutely love to see the Lions pull the upset. Like, honestly, I can say this truthfully, Anthony. I am happy with whatever matchup we get in the Super Bowl. I know it's going to be great ball. I know that all four teams deserve to be here. I can find reasons that I want all these teams to win. I'll even run it down for you real quick. One, I thoroughly enjoy watching greatness be great. If Mahomes pulls this off, like, I've been on the Mahomes is the best dude I've ever seen play the position thing for a while. I know that it's going to take time to build the resume to truly get him GOAT status over considering what Brady did during his career. That's fine. But if he does this, like, he's somehow ahead of track. Like, he is, what the hell, man, if he pulls this off. Baltimore, they've been the best team all year. I enjoy greatness being great. It'd be great for Lamar to get this. I will say Baltimore Ravens fans will be absolutely insufferable, as any fan base who wins is, and I fully expect Commanders fans to be insufferable in the absolute best way if eventually Washington can pull it off. But Ravens fans will be particularly insufferable, and the Lamar narrative of the people who will be mad that team should have traded for Lamar, even though no team could have ever traded for Lamar, would just get out of control. So that would be annoying, but I would be very happy for Lamar and that crew and OBJ and they just do it the right way, and I like seeing teams that do it the right way rewarded. The Niners, like, I want Kyle to get one. I think he's the best coach in the sport. I think he deserves to have a ring. I'd be really excited for them. And also it'd be kind of a fun fact that Adam Peters would get a fourth ring on his way out. I think he would get the ring. And then last but not least, if not last but most, do I need to explain why it'd be awesome if the Detroit Lions won? Dan Campbell out there biting knees. Like, come on, man. He's the best. Speak about doing it the right way. Let's go Lions. Unfortunately, I think the 49ers are going to win. I just think at home, like, I will say this, the Lions aren't scared. Lions will not, this moment will not be, I would be stunned if the moment is too big for them. Campbell has them ready. They have a bunch of tough dudes who believe in it. Goff has been there before. I think that matters. You got just a very, very good group of coordinators, good position coaches. Like, these dudes are going to be ready. I just think what San Francisco does is really hard to play. And at home, Purdy wants to bounce back after last week. I think that San Francisco wins like 27-24 kind of game. Like, it's going to look to me probably a lot like the Kansas City-Buffalo game last week.
To be honest, I think a lot of people are rooting for the Lions as well. And quite frankly, I don't understand the Brock Purdy hate. I've never really understood it.
I think people are just mad because there's like a lot of people that don't want Kyle to be as good as he is, and they just refuse to accept reality that he may have found a late round gem that he is put in a position to succeed. And that, by the way, that guy was probably way underdrafted. That guy's actually good at it.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, like, people are saying he's overrated, and he's the last pick of the NFL draft. Like, he's just going out there doing his job. Like, his job is to get the best players on his team the ball, and people can't accept that. But yeah, I've just seen so many people rooting for the Lions, and like you said, they're, this pool's like Cinderella to an extent. But I just think too much experience over there with the 49ers. Also, when they're fully healthy as a unit, and you don't have to just depend on Christian McCaffrey, you can actually lean on Deebo to, go out there and make some plays. I think the 49ers are just too much. I hope Deebo plays the entire game. If he doesn't, I think it could get a little scary for the 49ers. Last week, leaning on Christian McCaffrey, it got a little spooky. You know, Jawan Jennings, he had a couple of big catches down the stretch, but without Debo and all the eyes on Christian McCaffrey, I don't think there's enough just there.
I don't disagree. I think that Debo, like if Debo or McCaffrey or Ayuk to a lesser extent, Kittle, when they have all their pieces, they're the only team that competes with the Ravens.
Yeah.
Week in, week out. Obviously the Chiefs could beat them. You know, I think either of these two teams could beat them on any given Sunday on a Super Bowl. That's the nature of football. But week in, week out, like San Francisco, I know what happened when they played head to head. That was one game. But I also think that Debo got knocked out of that game?
Yeah, Debo wasn't in it.
Yeah. So like when they're whole, their pieces complement each other so well that they're a juggernaut. So keeping those guys out there is essential. And we'll see if like the weather and like all these other factors. But at the end of the day, like offensively, they're great at running it. They're great at throwing it. Their screen game's excellent. Like they do everything. And defensively, they're fantastic at all three levels. What more could you want? And the Lions aren't far behind. But I do think that San Francisco has a little bit more. They're at home. And we'll see. Going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk about it.
Who you got?
On Monday. I got San Francisco.
Okay, just making sure. You know how to write it down.
Yeah, write that down.
You sure you don't want to go with the Lions?
Yeah. I mean,
Are you sure?
I want to.
Okay.
But I'm not.
Okay.
Coming up next, Anthony, what order do we want to do this final hour in? Because we got all kinds of stuff that we're looking at.
I was thinking we maybe talk about the head coaching carousel and then pivot to basketball.
That works for me.
Or we go with the Wizards. It's up to you. But
no, let's do that. I think that's a great call. So we have 6 of the 8 jobs filled, many of them this week. We haven't had a chance to talk about them. So we'll talk about the NFL's coaching carousel, and then we'll get into the Wizards, and you'll hear from new interim coach Brian Keefe coming up at 6:15. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live on the free Odyssey app. We're radio professionals who should know better than to take a gigantic bite of a protein bar right before you come back from break.
Was that a fine?
I horribly mistimed that. No, because I kind of figured it out. I'm just kind of pulling the curtain back for the audience here. Like, I didn't do a good job. I don't think I did a fine. Like, when we grade the film on Monday, I get a minus on the play, but I didn't commit a penalty.
Okay, that's fair.
Definitive minus on the play.
Your PFF grade will be down.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still think I'm doing all right for the show. I think we've had a good show today.
Yeah. 2
2 hours of which are available now on the podcast feed. So you can go to the Hoffman Show podcast and check that out. We did also, for those that were listening in the 5:30 to 5:45 segment, and especially if you were watching on YouTube, we figured out the emoji gestured bit that was happening on the camera, that if I gave a thumbs up, all of a sudden I got like a thumbs up, and we can test it because I did like the little heart hand thing, and it gave like these cartoon hearts, and now, Anthony,
they're gone.
no cartoon hearts. So we're making improvements all show long here. There is one other order of business, though, that I was reminded as I'm doing the show from home on Friday. I went down to my kitchen. I refilled my water bottle. Rachel and I were chatting real quick. Anthony, are you still coming to class on Monday?
It's a great question, Craig. And yes, I'm glad you reminded me. I will definitely need you to remind me on Sunday, please.
Okay. Well, we need to then sign you up.
Oh yeah, send me the link.
I'm gonna text Rachel your email right now, and she's gonna sign you up.
Okay, that works too.
I'm gonna double check that I just sent her the correct email for you.
Man, I need to work out today, maybe tomorrow. Like I gotta.
Well, at this point, you're not gonna gain much more fitness between now and Monday. All you're gonna do is make yourself sore. And
I just need to, loosen the legs a little bit. That's all. Maybe do a brisk walk.
A brisk walk.
Yeah, get.
Yeah.
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 Get the arms going, the hips moving, and the shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So I'll be right there next to you, the whole class.
Thank you.
So we're taking the 8 a.m.
Yes, sir.
All right. Cool. I'm excited for this. We'll get you all signed up, all squared away. I think you'll like it until you hate it, until you look at me about halfway through and go,
can you tell me how many laps we're doing? I hope it's
well, I don't know yet. I don't know the programming for Monday yet.
3 is mentally abusing.
No, it is. It's a HIT class for those that have been wondering. So my wife teaches at a HIT place in DC, and it's awesome, and we love it. And I've been training there as well, and we have worked on getting Anthony to come join us for a class that Rachel is teaching, and we're very excited that he has agreed to do so. And it's a blast. Like, first of all, it's going to be fun, but it's super challenging. And like during it, there might be a time where you're like, this is stupid. But at the end, you'll be like, that was great. I can't wait to come back. That's kind of how these things type of work. Yeah, oh, yeah, you're going to want to come back. Don't think this is a one-off. Come on. But yeah, it's a great time. And I'm excited for you to experience it.
I'm excited as well, man. I like challenges.
Yeah, and so sometimes though it's longer rounds, but you only have to go through the room twice. Sometimes a little bit shorter rounds, and you go through 3 times. And I will say, when you finish it and it was terrible, and you're like, all right, just one more time, there is a mental reprieve versus like, I got to do all this 2 more times. Are you kidding me?
Ooh, man. I'll make sure I have my water. I need to go get me a Stanley. And that might help.
Good luck finding one. Those things are popular as hell.
Yeah, they're super hard to find, and they're expensive.
Yeah, I'm good with whatever brand I got right here. Iron Flask. Iron Flask. It's not a Stanley. I'm sure they're thrilled with that free advertising I just gave them. No, I will say, make sure that you get enough carbs in you on Sunday, and get some sodium in you, and hydrate and have a little bit of fuel for you Monday morning. Are you can you eat before you work out?
Something like, it got to be like a granola bar, and I'll like drink some water. But I'm not eating like a
Well, no, you shouldn't eat like a full. I want a full proper English breakfast.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't set myself up.
No, that would be
That would
a lot.
be bad stuff. Yeah.
Like a full bagel maybe, but like with nothing on it, just straight carbs.
Yeah, I think maybe some oatmeal actually. I operate
That's a
very
good one.
well on oatmeal.
Yeah, no, oatmeal's great. In fact, Eliud Kipchoge, the greatest marathoner in the history of the world, that's his breakfast in the morning.
Oatmeal?
Yeah,
I love.
he's an oatmeal guy.
I eat 2 packs of oatmeal before every football game.
That's now you know the secret to performance, kids. That's it. That's our show. Thanks for listening. Now we've done the thing where we goofed around for a long time, and I don't know how much time we have. Like 90 seconds left in the segment. So the teams hired the coaches. Anthony, let me put it this way. Here's how we have fun with this in 2 minutes, 2.5. We can buy 3 minutes here. What's your favorite hire of this cycle?
That's a great question. Let me look at these.
Mine's easy.
I'm gonna say my favorite hire. My favorite probably would be Gerard Mayo.
Really?
Yeah, I would probably say Gerard Mayo, just because that hire I think was very unique in the Boston area. Just like in terms of their history and what they're known for to hire a black coach in that climate, I think was pretty cool, and I'm excited to see what he does up there. Hopefully, there are results that come with the job and things of that nature. But I think him being hired up there is probably going to be my favorite, just for the culture purposes.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very cool hire for the reasons you said. I do have concerns about Mayo because of some of the early things that I had read. That ESPN kind of expose on the end of the Belichick Kraft relationship, and Mayo kind of walked around like his what didn't stink, and some guys used to call him when he was on the team like, oh yeah, that's Gerard Belichick. And they didn't mean it as a compliment. It wasn't like, oh, he's like another coach on the field. It's like, he's like Belichick. And if you're like Belichick, that doesn't work, because Belichick's the only one who's been able to Belichick his way into Belichickian results. Mm-hmm. But I hope it works out. I hope that's just some people with sour grapes, and ultimately that's a good hire. Mine is Raheem.
Yeah. He was a close second for me.
I love Canellis to the Panthers. I think that's a smart hire for them. I really hope that Canellis gets the patience that the other coaches there have not. The job he's done with Baker and Geno the last 2 years is tremendous, and I want Bryce Young to succeed. And I hope that, for the franchise that I frankly grew up rooting for, my fandom died a long time ago. But for the franchise that I grew up rooting for and my friends and family who still want to see them win, I hope to get happier calls from my mom on Sunday in the years to come because of what Dave Canellis is going to do, and I think he's capable. But I love AP to the Raiders, but I really like Raheem to the Falcons. This is a guy that everybody loves. Everybody is a Raheem Morris fan, and I'm excited to see what he does with the staff. I'm excited to see what they do at the quarterback position because they can win next year. Like, that division is not any good, and that roster is really good. And so if he can... I think the challenge is that roster was built a certain way. And so can he find an OC out of that Shanahan tree who knows the run game side of it extremely well and will lean into that to make whatever quarterback they have better? And by the way, they can draft it. They might be able to get Bo Nix at 7 and lean on the run game heavy and continue to build out that roster knowing that Nix has a rookie contract and be in good shape. So I'm very curious to see what they do at that spot, both at quarterback and then obviously at offensive coordinator. Raheem knows a bunch of people. I would hire someone who's got a great run game background and try to build off the good stuff that Arthur Smith did while not being as miserable to be around as Arthur Smith apparently was based off of the grumblings out of Atlanta. All right, when we get back here on the Hoffman Show, Wizards lose last night, but... have they started the turnaround that they need post Wes Unseld Jr.? New coach Brian Keefe had some interesting things to say after the game. We will discuss next on the team at 980. Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. We also have a podcast. It's just the show on your time, on demand, and you can listen to it anywhere you get your podcasts. So make sure you're subscribed to the Hoffman Show podcast for that. We are your home, of course, Team 980 for Wizards basketball, and this show talks more Wizards than anybody else, which means we would be remiss if we did not take a moment to look back at the Wizards' first game last night after they fired Wes Unseld Jr. They do that in the middle of a back-to-back, which is a bit bizarre, but it just kind of was time, and so they do it. And I think it's important to point out, because of that, there's not a lot of time to do anything if you're Brian Keefe. You are just simply stuck running everything you've already run. You know, they've talked about this being now a season of discovery, and they want to try new things, and they want to try different lineups, and they want to do all this stuff. You can't do it unless you have at least a film session. You don't even have time to do that. It's everybody go to bed, wake up, you find out you got a new coach tonight, and you go to the arena, and then you play ball. Maybe you can install a couple new plays, but there's no tweaking of defensive principles. There's no tweaking of how you're playing offense. You can obviously play some different lineups, which they did last night, but there's not a whole lot you can do outside of ensure the competitiveness, and that is the big charge for Brian Keefe. The reason Wes Unseld Jr. was dismissed as the head coach, relocated to the front office, is because they were not competitive. And there was a moment very early in this game where he Brian Keefe was like, this is new. We're not doing this anymore. And a minute and 7 seconds into the game, after giving up a transition layup, where not enough people hustled back and gave a God's honest effort, in his mind, Brian Keefe called timeout, brought everybody together and said, no, this is not what we're doing. No mas. And that ultimately resulted in them playing more competitively. At least that is the way he saw it. Anthony, let's go cut 3 here. Brian Keefe afterwards assessing his team's performance.
I talked with the team in the afternoon, as we usually would on a kind of like a back-to-back situation, and we just were open with each other. I'll leave that some of what we talked about as a group in there, because I think that's important to protect our locker room and what we're doing. But we talked about raising our standards, and we talked about competing, and I really believe I think I saw that tonight. Even when it didn't look great offensively because we were missing shots, we kept competing, and that has to be the bar for us going forward. It's really important for us.
You called a timeout 107 into the game.
I did.
Why?
They got to lay up in transition defense, and that is something that cannot be what we're about. And they needed to feel that from me right away. And that's the bar we got to set. And they accepted it, and they understand what we're going to be doing going forward, that stuff's not going to be tolerated.
There is a way to lead, well, that is uncompromising but not harsh. And those are the best leaders. The best leaders will make sure that there is a standard, and if you don't uphold it, you will not be continuing in the role that you have in the organization. That is a basketball team, a football team, a hockey team, a baseball team, a soccer team, a lumber company, a finance tech company, a government job, a whatever. That, hey, you have a job to do. This is how it's going to be done. And we're not going to tolerate any other way of doing it, or at least a level. Like you can have different ways of going about it. You can have different approaches, but there's a level of professionalism and a level of achievement that we are going to reach on the things we can control. And Brian Keefe established a minute and 7 seconds into that game that, at the very least for last night, that was going to be enforced in a way that it has not in the past. And that is why he is there. And the inability to do that. It's not like you can do that every game. You get to do that once, maybe twice, before it's like, oh, cool, coach called a timeout again. But when it's your first game, it's important to go about that. And, I do think that Wes probably at times tried to get through that message privately, and the nature of the NBA is you can also do it very publicly, and not necessarily in the press, but we're all watching the games. You call timeout, we all know what's up. And your players got to be less worried about getting embarrassed and more worried about getting the job done. And I think Brian Keefe is a guy who has been such a good development coach over the years and been a part of organizations that have developed young players very well. Probably fully understands that. And last night he put his foot down and said, this is what the score is. And I appreciate that a lot. I came away from that press conference watching Brian Keefe last night, not necessarily going, this is the most dynamic guy. This is the guy that screams head coach, but in the ways that we think traditionally about head coaches, and not that Keefe is the guy that is going to be the favorite coming out of the season necessarily. But he does sound like a lot of other NBA head coaches, your Nick Nurses and some of your more modern guys who I think do an excellent job of managing the locker room, managing situations, and are also just very realistic and kind of plain and blunt about the reality of their situations. And I think Michael Winger operates that way. Will Dawkins operates that way. And I can see why it's evident to me, I should say, that Keefe comes from a similar background in Oklahoma City, that Spursian type of way of operating that Keefe does, as they've all crossed over the years, even if West was the guy who ultimately hired Keefe this offseason. Again, there's only so much you can do in one game, but I do think I agree with Keefe that in watching last night, the results were not ultimately that different, but they like that was a team that by the end looked tired, looked like they were in the middle of a back-to-back. They looked like they were in the middle of a coaching search or a coaching change that was emotionally exhausting. I mean, I also think about this, these guys found out probably pretty early, and some of them might have found out on Twitter. And it's not how you want to do it, but because of the schedule, because it was a back-to-back, it's not like they had time to wake everybody up and call, or even like if you're on the road and you're like, hey guys, team meeting, we're calling everybody's rooms. You got 30 minutes, meet in the ballroom at 7:30 at the Marriott whatever marquee, or let's be real, the Four Seasons in whatever town you're in Detroit. If that were to happen today. No. These guys played Wednesday night, went home, slept in their own beds, and NBA players, because their games start at 7 o'clock and don't end, and they don't leave the arena until 10:30, like they're a pretty night owl type of schedule. They might not go to bed till 1, 2 in the morning. They, on a night like that, you can get up at, 10. I got the official announcement at 8 a.m. So there's just no keeping the secret. So I do wonder how emotionally exhausting when the first thing that happens when you wake up is you find out your coach is gone. And it's probably happening in like a group chat from Will Dawkins or Michael Winger. But it's not like they found out together in a team meeting. So there's a lot of, I would say, like that stuff evident last night in the game, that this was a team that looked like it had tired legs. And I thought Keefe did a good job of pointing out, like, their process was good last night. And if you do that and you actually hit shots, I mean, they had 33 assists and only 7 made threes. Tells you that the ball was moving, they were sharing it, they were doing a good job. They just couldn't hit any freaking shots. And you assist on 33 baskets when, that's a low number in general, but, you got a lot of makes with very few threes, and it tells you that the process is better. Now, moving forward, I think what you see is some of the lineup tweaking, some of the lineup changing, and the ability to play different ways compared to what they have been doing under Wes Unseld. The season of discovery really starts tomorrow against Detroit. And one of those things that I think is going to be interesting is if Marvin Bagley and Daniel Gafford start to play some minutes together, a la Porzingis and Gafford last year. Very different players, Bagley and Porzingis, but the two big lineup has been good for Washington in recent history. So is that something that Brian Keefe will be considering?
I think everything is always on the table. We're still learning our group, and we talked about really being in a discovery phase of how to best use the lineups that we have. Marvin's been a great addition for us. He's given us a great spark, so we're thrilled to have him, and he's given us something we haven't had, a guy who can really offensive rebound, good scorer, and he's showing some good stuff on the defensive end, protecting the rim. So I think all that stuff is definitely on the table, but I was pleased with our process tonight. We didn't shoot the ball well. I think we had 33 assists, and we only made 7 threes. So, that's good. We played at the pace that we wanted to. If we made those shots, it would have been right there. But, again, I was proud of our resilience within the game. That was really important to me tonight.
We'll see if they can get better results. Obviously, Detroit's not very good. They did beat the Wizards last time, so we'll see if they can get a better result tomorrow. That game again at noon in Detroit to kick off the weekend for the old Zardos. When we get back here on the Hoffman Show, a little bit more NBA, but let's go league-wide. The NBA's all-star starters are out. Shocker, no Wizards there. We know Kyle Kuzma, the closest to making the team, but wasn't particularly close. But now that we know the starters, who got snubbed? And also one of the funniest quotes I've seen from an NBA player in a long time on a teammate who got snubbed. That is next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 in our final half hour on this Friday. Of course, next week could be a huge week for the Commanders. We know they will interview the remaining candidates for their coaching openings. And depending on who's available and how those interviews go, if their favorite is no longer playing, gets defeated this weekend, and that person interviews really well, that's how they become the favorite. So, duh, Craig. Then next week could be the week that the Commanders have a head coach. So, be an exciting week. Make sure you're tuned into us starting at 4 o'clock each and every day. And if you miss any part of the show, you can check the Hoffman Show podcast wherever you get your pods. Okay, Anthony, the NBA All-Star starters have been announced, highlighted by ya boy, LeBron James, his 20th All-Star game.
Good gracious.
His 20th All-Star game. That is freaking nuts.
It's another record.
Yeah. I mean, all he does is break his own records at this point. I also saw something the other day. I don't have it in front of me. I wish I did, because it was an incredible tweet. But it's like, here's the difference between LeBron James and Kevin Durant's careers. And it was like 2 MVPs, 2 finals, 6 all-defensive teams, 8 all-NBA teams. And it was like literally a Hall of Fame resume between LeBron and KD. Kevin Durant's one of the 25 best players maybe ever. Although I will say, Durant, lower on my list than a lot of lists.
I was about to say, I think he's top 15 on my list.
Top 15?
Top 15 all time.
Oh, do you realize how many good basketball players there have been in the history of this league?
I think
I'm not telling you that like
doesn't get
one-on-one, but like when you look at them in the context of their era.
I don't think people realize, though, that Kevin Durant has been playing in the league for 15 years at a very high level. And I think he gets overshadowed just because of LeBron's greatness. Like,
That's true.
He's in, like, that realm with LeBron. LeBron is just in so many realms because he's an older guy, but he's also still hanging out with the younger guys. Like, it's I don't really understand it, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, LeBron just breaks everything. But in some ways, it's kind of like, you know, all the guys in the 90s who were like, who was the second best player of the 90s compared to MJ? It's just like Hakeem, right?
Yeah.
Like, probably that's the correct answer. And Hakeem came out the same year as MJ. And he just, when MJ left, he got titles in 94, 95. But Jordan was that much better than everyone else. And that's kind of what Durant has been to LeBron. But also, like, I think I have Steph Curry higher on my list than Durant.
Steph Curry's high. Yeah, I have Steph Curry higher as well.
So,
Steph Curry's in my top 10.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Curry's like pushing, depending on what the next 3 years look like for Steph Curry, like he could push top 5.
It's going to be interesting, though, and I'm glad we're having this discussion because I think ESPN put out some graphic. This is the first time a fully healthy Steph Curry has not been voted an all-star starter. And I kind of agree, Craig.
Oh, I definitely agree.
Okay.
I definitely agree. Like, Curry's still been excellent this year. He's averaging, 26 a game on, what's he shooting from 3? 40% shooting and like 92% from the line. And, you know, he's awesome. I mean, he's still pretty Steph Curry. But when you look at the guys who got names, so let's give it. So the West All-Stars, and they're finally back to an East-West thing this year after the nonsense they've done the last couple of years. I mean, it was fun, but like, was it? You got Jokic, Durant, Doncic, Shea, and then LeBron. So that's the Western Conference team. The East, Giannis, Embiid, Tatum, Halliburton, excellent. And then Dame gets the nod, and he's kind of the controversial one because there's a couple of other guards in the East that a lot of people think should be over him. Mm-hmm. But it does, like, the fact that Dame has never been an all-star starter is insane.
I mean, that's because he has stiff competition in Steph Curry, but now
he had Steph and he had Russ and he had Harden.
Yeah. And Harden. Yep.
And like Dame, I think there were some years that Dame might have maybe deserved it, but that's the nature of it. And when you get a little older, you tend to get, or you've won an MVP or some of the stuff that guys over Dame had, you tend to get the nod. And so I tend to think a lot of these things, the snubs and whatever, even out in the end. Like you wind up, Kobe as a defensive player, he got way too many all defensive nods. Like he was awful defensively later in his career, and you still get like first or second team All NBA defense, and you're like,
because they had nobody else to name for real.
You could have done better. But like earlier in his career, he might have been snubbed, and so it winds up evening out in the end. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Right. So that's part of the reason why like LeBron making 20s nuts, because it was so obvious that he shouldn't be passed over that he's just kept making it the entire time. So what to you, like Halliburton, correct.
Yeah.
He's been fantastic. Then it's Dame, Jalen Brunson, or Donovan Mitchell. Those are the guys that are kind of in the mix for that other guard spot.
Yeah, and I think I want to go with Jalen Brunson. I mean, I think you can make the case for Jalen Brunson or Donovan Mitchell over Dame. Jalen Brunson and Dame's numbers sort of kind of look alike. Brunson's shooting a better 3-point percentage than him, but points-wise, rebounds-wise, assists-wise, they're relatively the same. But Dame has freaking Giannis at his expense, and he has a whole bunch of other championship level players on his team. Brunson is the guy that makes the Knicks go. He's come up for them in the clutch several times this season, and he's the reason they're top 4, top 5 in the East right now. So I will probably give the lean to Jalen Brunson just because of all that he doesn't necessarily have on his team, and they're still finding a way to get it done.
Yeah, I probably lean Brunson. Mitchell's numbers are slightly better. The Cavs and Knicks are separated by a half game in the standings, so they're both kind of leading. But I will say, like, Mitchell's kind of doing the same thing because Mobley's missed a bunch of time. Garland's missed some time. Like, Brunson, Mitchell, toss-up. Halliburton's been unquestionably there.
Yeah, he's there.
I think like obviously Tatum's got the Celtics in the top spot. Giannis is overcome whatever was happening with Adrian Griffin that they're second in the East, and Embiid is having legitimately one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you get your name in there, like now that it's known, like you said, it's going to end up balancing out. Like some people's names are, they're going to end up being there a year or two longer than they actually should. But guess what? They probably on the front end of things were a year or two late to actually, being deserving of an all-star spot. So I think it's going to end up balancing out. But their names are out there. Everybody knows who Jalen Brunson is. Everybody knows who Donovan Mitchell is.
And they'll both be on the team. And
they'll be on it for sure.
On the other side of it in the West, the guy that is kind of getting the most pub as a snub, if you will, is Kawhi. Now, he hasn't had like an insane – like he's 23.7 a game. But they are so when he's on he's played basically every game this year.
Yes, he has. No load management, baby.
Yeah, no load management. Like he's been out there, and they're plus 11 points per 100 possessions when he's on the floor. They're killing people when he's on the floor. Yeah. And they've been great. And I think his egoless nature, or whatever version of his ego exists, is a huge part of that. But, like, I don't know. I also feel like the Suns have been disappointing. But what are you going to do? Keep Durant, who's averaging 29 in a game on 50, 45, 87 shooting splits out of the All-Star game? Like, I just don't know who you replace. I guess LeBron would be the guy you replace. Realistically, Kawhi for LeBron. But LeBron is also averaging 24 points a game. Like, LeBron is having a down season literally only by the standards of LeBron James. He is 24.8 points, 7.1 rebounds, 7.5 assists on 52% shooting.
The fact is he's still shooting that well. Like, he's always floated in, the high 50s, 56, 58. Low 50s, I'm still taking it, man.
52 and he's 52-39. I don't have his free throw percentage in front of me. He's 52-39.
Yeah, this is probably the best he's shot from
75.
Yeah, his free throws have always stunk.
Still, and by the way, they've won 4 or 5.
Good. They need to keep winning. They need to keep winning.
I don't know. I mean, this is the nature of it. You have a guy like for years, like Mike Conley was one of the best guards in the league with the Grizzlies teams that were winning, and he never made an All-Star team. Yeah. It's just we're at a great we didn't even mention Trae Young. Trae's having an awesome season. Could be right there. Steph is having an awesome season, but Doncic and Shea get it. Like, there's not enough All-Star spots.
There are not.
That's the nature of it. But I think there have been worse transgressions in years past.
Yeah.
That's for sure. All right, a quick look at what is trending, and then we'll wrap up the show on a Friday here on the Team 980.
Here's what's trending.
on the Team 980, always live on the free Odyssey app. Limping into the weekend. No, we're sprinting into the weekend here on the Team 980. Anthony, what you got going on this weekend, bro?
I will be working. I'm on duty this weekend. See, when I say I'm working, like at prep, I guess, on duty, it's not really work. It's more so, taking the guys here and there. And it's a lot of relaxing. So I'm probably going to end up cleaning my crib.
You just have to be available. You're on call.
Yeah, essentially, yes. Yes.
How dirty is how much cleaning you got to do?
So usually I clean my entire crib before New Year's. It's been about 3 weeks, so I'm gonna do it again.
Your space isn't that big, bro.
I know, but I just
we got
like
floors over here.
Yeah, I like cleaning it though. I like
that's
cleaning
great.
it.
You should.
Yeah.
I should probably be better about some of my spaces. I look around right now. Yeah, I got a little stuff I got to clean up. But I mean, I don't know. This space is also kind of weird up here. It's been a work in progress. We finally got the couch this week, so like we've been moving stuff around and all that kind of stuff. But no, that's good. That'll give you a couple hours of work. Is there anything really going on Saturday? Or are we just all waiting for Sunday?
I mean, I'm probably gonna watch the Australia Open a little bit while I'm
It's just
chilling.
so late. Oh my God, it's killer. By the way, congrats to Yannick Sinner.
Man,
knocking out Djokovic last night. Let's go.
Like he's literally always there, like so close, and then Djokovic just somehow like comes back and I don't know how he does it, man. The fact they play 5 hours, 4 hours.
It is kind of crazy. Sometimes you're just watching tennis, you're like, wait, what time is it?
Yeah.
But the tennis is so good.
It goes by really fast.
Tonight, you got the women's final. Sabalenka, the favorite there after she knocked off Coco Gauff.
She beat the mess out of Coco.
Yeah, I mean, Sabalenka's sick. She's so good.
And she's so strong.
And now that she's like got the confidence piece. Did you ever wind up watching Breakpoint?
No, I haven't watched it.
Oh, you should watch that. If you're starting to get into the tennis, you got to watch Breakpoint on Netflix. And she's heavily featured. Sabalenka is, and it's great because she like a lot of tennis is so mental, like, and a lot of the people that play tennis, like, you're just like, what is going on inside your head? And they start working with all these like, sports psychologists and mindset coaches and varying professionals to help them get their mind in a good place. And Sabalenka, amongst others, like starts working with some folks to help get through the emotional turmoil of being a solo artist essentially, and her career takes off. Maria Sakkari has a huge breakthrough after working with a sports psychologist, and it was actually really interesting. Sakkari, who's like the 6th-ish best player in the world rankings wise, her coach would talk to her psychologist before, like if she had a bad match or whatever. And her coach would make sure that whatever he was going to say was good from a psychological perspective to say to the player, which is like really high level communication and a great way to exist, because you're trying to manage this person who has to play with emotion and also is out when you're out there alone. Like tennis is not. There's so much thinking in tennis. It's crazy. Anyway, Breakpoint on Netflix is great. You'll enjoy it. You should watch it. Yeah, I don't really have a lot going on. We're going to go run outside tomorrow. I'm pretty pumped about that.
How many miles?
It's nice out. I'll probably wind up getting somewhere between 6 and 7 in.
6 miles?
Yeah.
Do you guys run these straight, or do you like run a mile, walk half a mile, run a
mile?
No,
I mean, it's a slow, easy run. Like tomorrow I'll be running, especially with the humidity, bro, like I might be running over 12-minute miles tomorrow because it's a jaunt. Like it's supposed to be like zone 2 easy heart rate, but like when it gets that humid out, your heart rate spikes so fast. So I'm gonna just have to kind of go based off feel. Yeah. But that's why like I'm kind of bummed that like I need it to be 45, not 65. If we can get to 45 degree, I'll run 8-9 easy. But that's the thing, is like you have to learn to run slow. That's the key to running.
I haven't learned that yet. Like when I run, I'm running with a purpose. Like I'm really working.
I will tell you this, because it's not actually about miles tomorrow. It's about time. And when you start running, here, legit, anybody listening, here's my voice right now that wants to enjoy running. If you start running for time and not distance, your relationship with running will change, and it will be better. That's just
Okay.
knowledge.
That's probably what I need then.
Yeah. Start off.
Endurance.
You don't need to do 60, 75, 90-minute runs like we're doing. We've been doing this for a hot second now.
Yeah.
Start off with 20, and work your way up. All right. Then we're gonna watch football on Sunday, and that'll be great. What else is great? Good finish to a part of a week. Real things, real people said in real microphones.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, Ant. It's Friday. You're driving. What we got?
All right, so we got 2 real things, real people said into real microphones. We will get into, should we do Jason Kelsey or Steph Curry challenging Sabrina?
Do we got Jason or is it Kylie?
Oh, Kylie.
Yeah, so Kylie Kelsey, Jason's wife, on Good Morning America, talking about Jason and his weekend in Buffalo.
Yo, do you know?
Just kidding. Here's Steph Curry.
Holds the record for the most points in a 3-point competition? Sabrina? I think I gotta bring her out and be like, we gotta settle this once and for all.
I know, that's what they said. I was talking to my agent about it because my agent Curry instead of Indy, y'all probably gonna do something.
I think I gotta challenge her. Hell yeah. It'll be lit. Come on!
Who is he talking to? Is that Pajemski?
Brandon P.
Yeah, Pajemski.
I don't want to butcher his last name.
It's all right. I just said it twice. I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it'll be a nice little showdown. I think Caitlin Clark comes out of nowhere and beats them both.
Oh, my God. That would be insane. They should invite her, actually.
Well, it'd actually be crazy because she's going to be playing in Indy next year after she gets drafted there #1. All right, that's our show. We'll play you the Kylie Kelsey sound on Monday.